As I woke up this morning, I was thinking of Pastor Billy Stone. And like last week, I was thinking about all the investments that have been made in his life and the life of his family. And that today is his first day behind the pulpit in a new church, a brand new assignment, brand new position. And I know that he is grateful. He is so thankful for all the investments. And this is a time of year for me personally. I look around to the people who have done and made so many investments in me. They got me to this place. As a matter of fact, I like to go back. I like to look at photo albums. Yes, young people, that's a book with 3-ring binders that you put pictures in. I like to go on the internet and look. I like to explore those individuals who have done so much for me in my life, so much that have gotten me to this point. And as I said just a minute ago, not all, but honestly, God is my witness. Not all of them did I love. As a matter of fact, what I found out is it was typically the ones that I had an edge for that did so much for me. It's like in school. You ever notice that? The teachers that you liked a lot, you learned very little from. But then there was them teachers that you dread going into their classroom, and it was like, But for some reason we absorbed everything that they said. And it was the craziest thing. I mean, I look back and I think of some of the teachers that I wasn't a fan of, but have taught me so much in my life. And then those who loved me and cared for me and made their investments in me. But, maybe because of their love, it wasn't the kind of investment that I always need. One of the greatest investments you can make in a person's life is to tell them no. Or stop, or quit. Instead of, go ahead, try it, be free, you're free, do what you need to do what you want to do. Some of the greatest memories I have are the ones that were painful when Mom said no. And my mom, even though she was a tiny little woman, when she said no, she meant she was right there with that no. And she wasn't coming off of it. And so that, I always think about that. And I think, and that takes me back to 1 Thessalonians 5:18 that says, in everything, in all things give thanks. For the good, church, listen to me, and for the bad. Turn this down just a notch, will you please, Sean? I feel like I'm echoing in my own ear. This is the will of Christ Jesus concerning your life. That you give thanks in everything, in all things. Because those things shape us. Those things form us. Those things make us who we are today. As we head into another Thanksgiving season of giving thanks, I want to make a personal request. That as we sit around our tables and we give thanks for the things that God is doing, the things that God has done, thanks for our family members and our loved ones, I want you to think about what I told these little kids during their children's box time. Find that one person. Reach out to that one person that when you look back, you say they absolutely had an impact on my life. They made the kind of investment that actually helped to shape me today. And I want you to find that person. Right now with the internet, it's pretty easy to find anybody. But send them an email, send them a text, pick up the phone and call them, send them a card or letter, and thank them for the investments that they have made in you. I think of friends and teachers, coaches, clergy member. I think of acquaintance along the way. I think of family, mom and dad, brothers and sisters, and aunts and uncles and grandparents. I mean, there's a lot of people when you look back on your life that have made big investments in your life. Let us not forget them this Thanksgiving. Let us consider them today. So you may not believe this, but the day will come, and for some it has come, when you will look back and think about all these people that you have encountered over the years. All these people that were involved in your life, again, whether good or bad, but all these people that were involved in your life. And you're going to look back and you're going to remember those people. You're going to remember what they've done. So let us give thanks to them. And it always, like I said, it wasn't always that one individual that you loved the most, that you liked the most, that you cared about the most. But it was that one individual who made an investment in you. And in Luke chapter 17, we find this teaching. We find this lesson. We find this example of what true thanksgiving looks like. So if you have your Bibles and open them up to Luke chapter 17, if you haven't already, back on the table, we do have Bibles. If anybody would like to get one, we are trying to follow some of the protocol, so we're not going to hand them out, but you're welcome to go get them. Or use your phones, cell phones, to pull up the passage. In this story, which is going to be really familiar to many of us, we find this act of thanks living. We find this act of giving thanks in our lives. And what we really see in this is the opposite. Those who forgot to give thanks. In Luke chapter 17, starting in verse 11, it says, on his way to Jerusalem that Jesus was traveling, he traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. Jesus was going into a village, and 10 individuals, 10 men who had leprosy met him. Yet they stood at a distance from him. And they called out in a loud voice, Jesus, Master, have pity on us. When he saw them, he said, go, show yourself to the priests or pastors. I'm going to inject that. And as they went, they were cleansed. As they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw he was healed, came back to Jesus, praising God in a loud voice. And he threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan, which literally means he was godless. He did not believe in God. He didn't come from a region where they believed in God. He believed in God. Jesus asked him, were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Was no one found to return and give praise to God except for this foreigner, this unbeliever, this godless individual? Is he really the only one that came back to thank me for healing? Then Jesus said to him, rise and go, for your faith has made you well. God's will, church, is for us to live a thankful life and to give thanks in all things, in everything, and in every encounter that we have. If we look at this passage, and we're going to break this thing down, I want you to see this. I want you to begin to think. I want you to begin to evaluate. I want you to begin to process the idea of how many people have come into your life over the years and what those people meant to you. I think we all have had friends or acquaintances that from time to time something will occur and we'll think about them and we'll think about how blessed we were and how much we gave to one another. I think all of us have those incidents in our life. Well, these 10 individuals, and we're going to look at this and break it down, all 10 individuals were in the same spot. They were all there. They weren't scattered around. They were all there together. All 10 had heard the same message about this man named Jesus. And so all 10 of these men with leprosy, they decided to go to this Jesus. But as they went to this Jesus, the Bible tells us that they stood a distance from him, that they didn't get too close to him. But the Bible tells us in verse 12 that Jesus entered the village. Jesus went to them when they did not come to him. Jesus will always pursue us. He's waiting for us to just make that connection with him. And that's what he was waiting here. He was waiting for these 10 to make a connection with him. And the Bible tells us that they did make a connection with him. They cried out for mercy from him. That's what they needed. That's what they desired. So all 10 come to Jesus, but they stand at a distance from Jesus. And within this group of 10 we had 9 believers. Listen to this. We had 9 believers and 1 unbeliever. 9 believed in this Jesus. I've often wondered if it was those 9 that kind of rallied the group together. I wonder if it was those 9 that said, listen, all else has failed here. Doctors can't help us. Medicine can't help us. Whatever kind of hospitalization and medical process they had at that time, none of that helped us. And I'm sure these people that believed in Jesus had heard the word and heard Jesus teach and heard about the people that he had raised up and the people that he had healed. And with no other options, no other choice, I think they got together and they said, let's, you know what? If anybody's going to do this, it's going to be Jesus. So let's go see him. And now, what was interesting was, oftentimes we do that with people that we are like-minded with. People that believe like we do. But I have this feeling one of them in that group, I don't know which one, I have a feeling one of them, of the 9, asked the Samaritan to come. I don't think he just followed along because obviously he was a part of the 10, so he was a part of the group. So in my mind, I believe one of the 9 asked him to come along. I wonder what the rest of them said. I wonder if the rest of them thought that it was worth him going since he didn't believe in this Jesus anyways. So the 10, they go and they go to the gates and they're standing there, but they're standing at a distance. And Luke says that this distance was set up for a reason. Because at that time, they were afflicted. They weren't allowed to be around other people. So they had to stand at a distance. As a matter of fact, when they walked through town, they had to holler, unclean, unclean, unclean. And if they didn't, and someone got too close to them, it could cost them their lives. So they're walking around town hollering, unclean, unclean, 10 individuals, unclean. And I'm sure people were scattering, but I'm also sure they were doing their very best to stay away from people. Even this Jesus, the one they had come for, the one that, and the only one they felt like could really heal them. I believe they came together and then they went together. So even if we stand at a distance from Jesus, know this, he is going to encounter you. You may stand at a distance from him because, like these lepers, you may feel afflicted. You may feel like you're different. You may feel like you've been rejected, not welcome, and unclean. Man, if I had $1 for every person that over my 30 years of pastoring that said, well, once I get my life straightened around, Pastor, I'm going to come and pray the prayer. No, because you'll never get it straightened. Pray the prayer and let him get it straight. He's the one that does this. He's the one that promised. That's the good news of Jesus, church. If I could stop right here and not even go any further, but there's some more important things to say. But that's one of the key things about Jesus. You may fear coming to him. You may not want to come to him for one reason or another, but know this, he's coming for you. As he prayed to his Father, that none would ever be lost. So let's take a look at this and let's continue to understand. Jesus promised us that he would never leave us and never forsake us. How could he possibly make that promise and then leave us and forsake us? Whether we're orphaned or whether we're unwanted, whether we're afflicted or whether we're addicted, regardless of what we're doing, what we've done, or what is in our minds to do next, he will not leave you alone. He will always be there. And that, in verse 13, is what we find out. When all 10 of them prayed, it says they all, not just the 9, not just the godly, but also the Samaritan. If he didn't pray the prayer, it wouldn't have said all. But it says all of them lifted up their voices and prayed. Jesus, Master, identifying his lordship over life, have mercy on us. All 10 prayed. All 10 cried out for mercy. all 10 felt like Jesus was the only answer. And we know the psalmist wrote, with a broken and contrite heart, God would never despise us. He would never turn his back on us. He would never walk away from us. So all 10 men knew that they needed help. And all 10 men believed that their help would come from this man named Jesus. This man they heard about, this man that they may have witnessed, but they surely witnessed other people who had encountered him. So they went looking for him. And you hear me say this all the time. It's not that we're pursuing him, church. He is pursuing us. He is always pursuing us. And one day we just kind of wake up and our eyes are open and we go, hey, whoa, whoa. Jesus is all up on me. But he's always been all up on you. The problem is you never quite opened your eyes. But listen, I don't fault anybody for that. Think about these 10 men. Think about the things they were going through which caused their eyes to be covered. Think about the afflictions that they had that kept them from seeing what could be done. They had put their faith in everything else and had nothing else to lose. So all of a sudden they focused on this Jesus. And their eyes were opened. And they came. And he was there. And even though they were worried about getting too close to him, he is never, ever worried about getting too close to us. There's one more thing I want to point out here as we continue. As you notice in our passage, it says that Jesus traveled, but he didn't travel in the same route or the same way they always traveled. As a matter of fact, the disciples were going, where are we going? You think your kids in the back seat of your car were bad? These are 12 men behind him. Where are we going? When are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? What's next? I can imagine, because he wasn't taking the normal path. He wasn't taking the normal path. He did not take the normal route through a church, through a Bible study, through a prayer group, through a service project, through a mission trip, through an evangelistic revival. We spend a lot of time preaching to the choir in our churches. But he didn't take the regular route. He went over to the border. And he went down the border. The reason he went down the border is because he knew to his right were believers, and to his left was Samaria, godless unbelievers. So he pursued them. He went to the border for just that purpose, in pursuing them. Look at 14. Jesus then tells them, when he encounters them, I want you to go tell your priest, go tell your pastor what I have done for you. But understand this, that neither a priest or a pastor is going to understand what happened. When people come to me and they say, do I believe God heals? My answer is yes. Of course, the next question is always, why doesn't he heal everybody? And my answer is, I don't know. Well, how can you believe that he heals and still claim not to know? I'm not God. I'm not God. Some people he chooses to heal, some people he chooses not. And I don't have an answer for it. Does it break my heart from time to time? Absolutely. But I trust in him and I have faith in him. But understand this. We don't heal, but he does. So our focus has to be in the right place. So we noticed that all 10 were healed as they walked. When I read that, I thought, wait a minute, I must have missed a verse here somewhere. So when Jesus came to him, he must have touched them. He must have hugged them. He must have embraced them. Or maybe they hugged him. Maybe they embraced him. Maybe they reached out for the first time in a long time and touched somebody who dared get close enough to him. Maybe I missed a verse in here that tells us that he healed them. And then I realized that verse wasn't there. And I can't put it there. But then what I realized was, as they walked by faith, God healed them. I see that a lot in people right now, holding on and clinging to their faith. And I would say the majority being healed because of that faith. And they just don't have an answer for why not everybody is. I don't know. But I'm not God. Which leads us to the main point of this message. And if you haven't heard anything else or everything else is blanked out, please hear this today. Jesus asked them, were not all 10 of you cleansed? Were not all 10 of you healed? Yes, Lord. All 10 of us were. So where are the other 9? Where are they at? Was the other 9 not willing to return and give thanks, or they just didn't think that it was necessary? Or they were so happy that they were healed that they just forgot who healed them, where that healing came from, and how miraculous that healing was after all these years of torment and suffering and affliction. Except for you. Jesus calls him a foreigner. That meant godless, is what he was identifying. So the 9 who believed did not return, but the one who didn't knew where he got healed from. And he came down, he fell at the feet of Jesus and gave him thanks. One church, only one of the 10 gave God thanks. And these 10 were subject to the world around them as we are today. And 9 of them believed. But the only one that came was the one who was godless and didn't even know that there was a need to give thanks. As I read this, my heart kind of took a dive. Because I'll be honest with you, I'll confess this. As I was going through my past, I was seeing people that I thank God for. I spun fast through the ones that I was trying to give thanks for. And then there were the ones that, I dropped something. I must have missed them. Because it's easy to do. Seriously. I mean, think about this. Think about if this week was to write a card each day to someone that you had an altercation with or disagreement with or something over the last year or maybe in your life, and you just thank them, not knowing why you're thanking them, but you're thanking them because those people's actions shaped you. They shaped you. Everybody comes to Jesus from the same place in life. Everybody comes to Jesus and stands on level ground. Everybody comes to Jesus and believes that they are standing at a distance from Him. And it's often from an awful position, afflicted, addicted, sick, or ashamed. What I've learned over the years is many pray and many receive, yet not all do. And what we see here is though all 10 prayed and Jesus healed all 10, they forgot about the one who made the investment. And we, this season, will not. As our praise and worship band makes their way back to the platform, as they're making their way back to the platform, I don't know if you picked up your communion cup or not. If you didn't, please go back there and get one now and begin the process of opening it so we can take communion before 1 o'clock this afternoon. There we go. And as we pick up our communion cups, as we get ready, see what we're talking about today is not something you necessarily need to come to the altar for, but it's something you just need to recognize. Recognizing those people that have made an investment in you, beginning with Jesus himself. You are who you are because he is what he is. That's why he said, I am that I am. And you can become. So as you pick up your communion cups, as you get them open, you get that wafer ready and that juice ready, we're going to sing. And we're going to sing a song of thanksgiving. And as we sing this song, I want you to think of someone that made an investment in you. And then we're going to commune together. We're going to connect with Jesus once again this Thanksgiving season. We're going to thank him for all that he has done. Thank you.